like a chore after a while instead of fun, especially if it was a deadline. So I'm going to do a little dry brush, I think, as well here. It's hard because this character's arms are always dark. There's like a black shadow or a deep, rich blackness to his little pelt. So I'm always having trouble finding the light source and keeping it right. That's one of the things that but the good thing is I cover it all up in blue paint after a while, and it looks a lot better after that.
What's this character's name?
This is, it's funny. He's sort of like a weird avatar at this point. The name of the character is Dingbat, the cat, but he's gone through so many different incarnations over the years. Like the original Dingbat looked like a cross between Mickey and Felix. And it's funny because when people would see him, they'd automatically say, "Hey, that's Felix the cat." Which, I was honored and completely like horrified at the same time every time someone said it. But I mean, I chose those designs because they resonated with me in such a profound way, and I guess I shouldn't be surprised when people see it because I made it very obvious. But one of the things that happened was over the years, the character himself mutated a lot in different storylines that I'd put him in. See, one of my failings as a cartoonist is that I've never finished any of the stories that I've started. So I'll start a story and then I'll get, along with it, and then I'll quit. Because the whole idea of fiction just becomes so ridiculous at some point to me that I decide that it's just pointless to keep going. So one of the things I tried to do to liven things up for myself was this cat character became he became a rat last year. The year 2009 was the year of the rat. I was born on the year of the rat, and so I thought for a relaunch of this character on my site at Magic Inkwell and do a new comic, I'd do basically a story where I take that character and turn it into a space-time western. Sort of like Star Wars, but with anthropomorphic characters, and basically it was kind of ripping on the Metamorphosis too by Kafka. I even kind of emulated the style of the writing from the beginning of the book, where the character basically wakes up and he's a huge bug, but in mine, he wakes up and he finds himself a rat. And his wife tries to eat him, and his infant child try to eat him because he's a rat and they're cats. And he gets chased out of the house, and then the story kind of gets lost because he has this weird trip experience, and he gets picked up by a couple of hobos who he has a wound where his baby kitten daughter has pretty much gnawed his arm, like a big chunk of his arm out. And so these hobos use old shoelace to stitch him back together. And then I left the story alone for a while, and I'm actually starting it up again this coming Tuesday, the 17th. And it's Year of the Rat, Book 2. And I couldn't call it Year of the Ox because that was just too redundant. So I called it Year of the Rat, Book 2, The Place Between Seconds. And it basically picks up the story. He's like this weird intergalactic ninja type character with all these different strange powers. He's got yogic powers like levitation, invisibility, the ability to slow his heart down to appear dead. And it should be interesting. And I meant to bring some sample pages of that stuff to show you guys, but I left them at home. And with those, I'm using a new technique where I use deleter white, Japanese deleter white, which is correction white, and I add ink to it, and I make it into like a weird gray paint. And I use that for some of my inks, and then some of my inks are just washes, gray washes. And what happens is when I scan all that in as a color image, anything that's got deleter white in it becomes this really amazing gray, and anything that's just pure ink or pure ink washes with water becomes sepia toned. So you get this duotone kind of look to the comic strip, and it's pretty neat. I'm gonna keep working with it. I may come in and demo that because that's a really using that deleter white to create different shades of gray is really interesting. It's allowed me to do a very painterly style of coloring or graying or whatever. I was very lucky in that in college, even though I went to a very small college in Texas, I had these amazing painting professors. One was Dr. Norman Brown, who his specialty was acrylic painting and also biological illustration. The man was an amazing illustrator for like biology textbooks and whatnot. And he taught me a lot about color theory, but especially acrylic painting techniques, like the salt technique and ways to mask things in acrylic using tape and this acrylic medium I like using called acrylic gloss medium. And basically what you do is, like say you want to mask out something, like a letter, you put your tape down, you cut it out into the shape you want. And along the edges of where you're going to paint in that area, like say we're going to mask out this face, and we cut around the edges, and you've got tape here to cover everything else up. Along the edges, you paint some of that acrylic gloss medium, just a thin coat around all the way around the edge of the tape. Yeah. Then you paint your thing, paint in all your color. And what happens is when you peel off the tape, you get a perfect line. I mean a perfect line. Very few bleeds underneath the tape and anything, because the stuff acts as a seal for the mask. It's great, and I've used it a million times, and it's because of Dr. Norman Brown.
So if you don't use the medium, does it seep under the tape?
It seeps under the tape. It's hard to get a good mask with acrylic if you're using brushes. Like, it's really a good technique to use if you need a mask and you're using acrylic. Okay, so let's get started with watercoloring. One of the things I wanted to go over with my watercolors is saving old plastic things. And now I use this tray a lot, and I mean a lot of this paint is still, like this is a chip of yellow paint, but you add some water to this and it's good. It's still good. So never throw away your paint chips. For instance, this blue right here I can use right now. I use a lot of old brushes. I've got a lot of brushes for watercoloring, but you add a little water to this, and that color comes right out. See? So.
Does that depend on the quality of paint?
I use Winsor Newton Cotman watercolors. These are really good, and like I said, I mean this stuff lasts forever, so you don't have to waste your. Oh, this is interesting. It's mixing with the white. This is not white watercolor. This is white paint that I had here from. It's that deleter white. So I'm gonna have to get this out of here because I don't want any of that white in here. I didn't know that the white was watercolory too. That's an interesting thing. So, and here's another, this is the cover for that thing, and I use this too. And when I'm done, I just, pack it in and it's ready to go. But see how that watercolor just comes right out. So, one of the things I like to do is just a straight wash and let the watercolor do its own work. One of the things you can do here is you lay it down, you keep it wet, and then you can, this is called scrumbling. Well, this is one version of scrumbling where you take water and you can extend